If you master the 3 concepts that I'm going to be talking about in this video, which is not really talked about in the personal growth world, then you will experience a transformation unlike anything you've ever experienced before. The reason for this is because what I'm going to be talking about is not watered down motivational tips and tricks, but instead we're going to be dealing with how you relate with yourself and how you relate with reality, the very concept of what it means to be yourself. And when we operate from this deep fundamental layer, then everything else changes. So this is not surface level stuff. This is the real deep work that will change everything. Welcome back to another video. If you're new here, my name is Justin, and on this channel, I'm dedicated to bringing you the highest quality content when it comes to healing, transformation, and self-mastery so you can live your life at the highest level. In this video, my intention is to give you a blueprint or a roadmap for where to really focus your energy when it comes to your personal growth energy. So this video is perfect for anyone who is just starting on their personal growth journey and needs to have some direction, or if you've already been in your personal growth journey for some time, but you're feeling stagnant or stuck, or you're feeling like you've plateaued or not a lot has changed for you, then this is also a really good video for you. I believe this kind of work to be the most fundamental, most foundational work that you can do that will change everything else in your life. So I'm talking about your relationships, your finance, your emotional happiness and joy, and your business, your career, everything. It really changes everything because, again, it deals with the most fundamental layer. So without further ado, let's get right into the 3 key areas that you need to focus on to experience radical self-transformation. Okay, so the first key area that you need to work on is self-acceptance. It's funny that we all hold on to insecurities, we all hold on to these different parts of us that we don't like or we even hate, or we constantly compare ourselves to other people, or we don't like the way we look. But the funny thing is that we're the only person, or we're the only thing or entity that has to live with ourselves. In other words, you're in there, you're in your body, I'm here in my body, and we have to live with ourselves. And if we have not fully accepted who we are, then it's going to be really hard to live in there. It's going to be really hard to live with yourself. And so this is why this is going to be the first area that I'm talking about, is self-acceptance, is accepting yourself in your totality with all of your flaws, all of your mistakes, all of your perceived insecurities or weaknesses, so that you are not going about your life looking for that acceptance from other people. You are someone who has done the work to look internally and fully accept what's there for the purpose of self-love, for the purpose of making this life a lot more of a pleasant and pleasurable experience, because again, you're the only one in there. You're the only one in here. You're the only one that has to live with yourself. I'm going to give you an exercise here in a second that you can do, but I also encourage you to, as I talk about these different areas, to look into and do your own research on what kind of exercises works best and resonates with you most when it comes to working in these specific areas. So when working with self-acceptance, what I recommend doing is taking a piece of paper and writing down every piece of you, every part of you that you are either insecure about, or you don't like, or maybe physical parts of your body that you don't like, any part of you that's hard to accept. Write each one down and make it exhaustive. Make sure you have gone through every single thing and you're not missing anything. Then the idea is, once you're aware of these things, because a lot of these things we're just living with unconsciously, they're there but we're not really conscious of it. Once you're there and you can look at it, then you work with each item on that list one at a time. And you go through each one and you give it love, you give it acceptance, and you do whatever it takes for you to reintegrate that part of you with who you really are. So with the totality of your being. I'm going to link a video I did earlier on how to do shadow work, because this is a very essential part of shadow work. So I go really in depth in that video on different techniques that you can use. So I'll put a link in the description, and also a card up here on top, so you can look at this video when you're that video when you're done. But the idea is you look at the parts of you that you don't like and you accept them. And that way your life stops becoming about you trying to seek for external acceptance, and you become grounded in yourself because you've already accepted all the flaws, or perceived flaws, I should say, because they're not really flaws, that you have. And when you just do that, by yourself, you put yourself so far ahead of other people, and you are so grounded in yourself, so you can operate from this place of self-confidence and this place of being stable, because you have done this work and you've looked at the parts of you that you dislike, which again, most people never do or are too fearful to do, and you accept it. Now, a byproduct of self-acceptance is self-love. And that's the really beautiful thing, is when you accept these parts of you that you've disliked, you make room for self-love, because then there's room for you to love yourself. And there's two key benefits of that. When you love yourself, one, I already talked about this, you make life a lot more of an enjoyable experience because you feel good inside. So no matter what's happening, around you, you feel good because you've already cultivated the self-acceptance, self-love, and also self-confidence. And so life just becomes a lot more pleasurable being in your body, being yourself. The other really beautiful benefit of this is when you have done the work to accept yourself, you can help others do the same for themselves. So you can help others in doing this work as well. If you're liking this video so far, please give it a thumbs up and hit the subscribe button so you can support my channel and I can continue to do this kind of work. Okay, thank you so much, and let's move on to the second area of growth for you to experience radical self-transformation. Now, when you start looking internally, when you start doing the work I just described from self-acceptance, likely what's going to happen is you're going to start bumping into emotional baggage, different kinds of maybe trauma or past wounds or negative emotions that you've held onto or carried for so long internally. And so the second area of personal growth is healing your emotional pain. Now, when you're holding on to unhealed emotional pain and trauma, your life becomes about building up walls and putting up these walls to protect your pain, which is going to be your natural response, instead of healing the pain. And what happens is when you expend all of this energy on just trying to keep up these protective walls, your life becomes about protection and survival and separation and competition. And you waste your energy on that instead of using your energy towards healing and collaboration and joy and love and growth. So healing whatever pain you're holding on to is a must. And I'm not just talking about that, small surface level types of pains and inconveniences. I'm talking about the deep stuff, the dark stuff, the capital T trauma, if you've experienced that kind of stuff, that if you haven't processed, that's the stuff that you need to work on. The real pain you're holding on to inside. And if you have experienced really severe trauma, of course, I do recommend seeking professional help to getting that, to helping you with that. But what happens is when we heal our pain, when we heal our wounds, then we experience what I call internal freedom. This is very different from external freedom. External freedom might look good on the outside. You might have a career you like, or a nice house, or a nice car, or whatever, or it might appear like you're in a really good relationship, but inside you're miserable and inside you're suffering. And so no matter what your external world looks like, it's your internal world that hurts. Now, the opposite is changing your internal world, so experiencing internal freedom and liberation, so that no matter what's happening around you, you can feel free and good. And that's not to say you still don't pursue your goals. Of course you do that, but you're doing it from a place of pleasure and openness and freedom and growth. And that's why this is so powerful. If you need some help with how to heal your pain and your trauma, I have created a PDF that goes very in-depth on a 3-step technique that I personally use to heal all of my pain that I was holding on to. It's very powerful stuff. It's about 6 pages, and I made it short and straight to the point on purpose so you can read it, and it's very impactful, and it also has some nice diagrams to illustrate kind of the exercises that I'm talking about. So you can actually download that for free. I'll put a link in the description box below. So that's totally free of charge. I recommend you download that if you don't really know where to start with healing your pain. But of course, as I said before, research on your own different exercises or techniques that work with you and resonate most with you. And again, if you have experienced something really severe, seek professional help because that will do you wonders as well. Okay, so moving on to the third area that you need to work on. So you've done your self-acceptance work, you've healed your emotional pains, and now the third thing is becoming autonomous. Now, what I mean when I say becoming autonomous, it means operating or functioning independently of your life, circumstances, and events. It means assuming total control and complete responsibility over your internal world. It's becoming sovereign. And it's the idea that we have very little power over the external circumstances and the life events that happen around us, but we have total and complete control over our internal world. So how we respond to these events, what we choose to believe in, how we think, what meaning we choose to give to the events that happen to us. Going even one step further, what this means is once you become really advanced at becoming autonomous, it means not taking things personally, even things that are directed at you purposely. And you're probably like, Justin, of course I should take that personally. And no, I say no, do not take that personally. Why? Because unless you do the work that I've laid out in this video, which is the deep inner work of self-acceptance and healing your pain and your conditioning and your trauma, most people out there in the world are just living out their trauma. They're living out their conditioning. They're living out their programming unconsciously. It goes back to that idea of hurt people hurt people. And so once you start doing your inner work and you start increasing or living at a higher level of awareness, what happens is you understand that people who haven't done this work are just living out their conditioning. And even though things could be directed directly at you, you don't take it so personally because, again, they're just hurting inside and you understand this. And this doesn't mean you choose to be a victim or you choose to accept being the victim of something, but it means that you don't look upon it with that kind of lens. Okay? I'm not going to go too deep into that, but kind of reeling it back into this idea of being autonomous is how you go about doing that is having a high level of awareness in your everyday life. It means being more awake, being more conscious, being more present as to what bothers you in life, what triggers you, what events sway you emotionally, and being very awake to your internal emotional world as well, because those are all indicators of things that we're holding on to where we're not free. It's about noticing every time you're triggered in some way, and instead of running away with reaction and emotion, you become aware and you recenter yourself. And so it's not about being this perfect like zombie robot that has disconnected itself from the external world and doesn't feel emotion. No, not at all. That's not what I'm saying. In fact, it's the complete opposite. It's being so present, so engaged with the external world and your internal world that you notice when things are pushing you off track or swaying you emotionally. And each and every time you do that, you have an opportunity to recenter yourself. And you start living life this way where you become aware and you recenter yourself. And you become aware and you recenter yourself, where eventually you're just automatically becoming this autonomous, sovereign being. I encourage you to do your own research on how to do this and find exercises. But I do have a list of questions, actually just 3 questions, that can get you started in the right direction so you can understand your triggers and where maybe you are letting your emotions sway or being controlled by external events. These are the 3 questions. The first one is, in what areas of my life am I seeking external validation and acceptance? One more time, in what areas of my life am I seeking external validation and acceptance? The second question is, what does the outside world need to look like for me to feel good inside? Again, going back to my very first point, is you're the only one living with yourself. You're the only one in there. And there's nothing anyone else can do outside for you to do the work that you need to do inside. So this is a great question for you if you're struggling with living with yourself, is what does the outside world need to look like for me to feel good inside? And then the third question is, in what areas of my life do I place excessive importance on what people think of me? So one more time, in what areas of my life do I place excessive importance on what people think of me? And so as you answer these questions, you bring them to your awakened conscious state. So instead of the answers to those questions being unconscious, you bring them up to your conscious self, and that way you're aware of them when it's happening in real life, in real time, as you go about your very life and your day-to-day activities. And so again, the idea is to become aware so that when you notice yourself being negatively triggered or emotionally triggered, that you recenter yourself and you let go and you recenter yourself and you continue to do this work until just being centered is kind of your natural state. I hope this video has been of value to you and has given you an idea, a blueprint, or a roadmap with where to really focus your energy when it comes to your personal growth journey. If you love this video, then definitely watch the next video that's coming up here, as again, all of my content is going to be high quality, have to do with healing and transformation and self-mastery. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next one.